Hello everybody, welcome to another video. Guess what today is? Just guess. Today is the last page of the sketchbook. The last page of our book is here. So today we are finishing our sketchbook, which means that we get to draw myself in a Zen pose, thinking of what I did this book. So this entire book, this entire sketchbook that we have here was geared towards refining the finer concepts of anatomy. This was literally an entire sketchbook just dedicated to learning the things that I was having issues with, which was the neck, the back, clothing, and posing. So my entirety of this sketchbook was dedicated to teaching you guys that so that I would be able to get better at that, right? And it came with a lot of revelations. It came with a lot of techniques that we just came up with. Like it came down for, like the 3x3 rule came from just drawing constantly in this like this, right? So just me drawing over and over and over and over made me realize that there were patterns that I was missing, right? There were little patterns that I wasn't seeing. So I went and I just realized those patterns. So I found them, and then I was able to find things that it seems made things a lot easier for me. In both hands, bodies, faces, expressions, positioning, posing, and even perspective, right? All those things came from just studying and being self-critical and trying to explain these concepts to you guys. So teaching yourself through teaching others is a fantastic tool set that you guys could possibly benefit from, right? We talked a lot about the steps to how to visualize things in 3D a lot in these, like this book. Pretty much my how to draw book will be based loosely on this one book. So I might make this one the companion book for my how to draw book whenever I release it. Jump from 50 viewers to 350, now 400. Woo! All right, so today we're not necessarily going to have a lesson plan, because we are drawing our last page of the day. So on our last page of our sketchbook, we have to do two things, right? Last page. Whenever I have a last page of a sketchbook, I like to do two things. First of all, I date it, right? Date it so I know exactly when I finished it. Cool. I'll just bye-bye. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to draw myself playing around with the concepts that we have learned. So I am going to draw myself all muscular because I learned how to draw muscles, right? And I'm going to be doing some sort of Zen pose because that's how I end every single one of my sketchbooks. So I'm going to be floating or something like that, right? So this is essentially, you go sketchbook complete, and then that's essentially the concept for my last pages. So let's start doing so. But since today is not necessarily a lesson day, I'm still going to explain to you guys how I'm teaching. So our lesson goals for today are going to be to get to, we have 400 people. Let's get to 150 shares. And let's get to 5,000 likes, 5K likes, right? Once we hit those numbers, we will begin. But until then, I'm going to draw on Post-its until we get there. So let's learn the basic things about drawing a human face. Pew, pew, pew. Yeah, like placement is incredibly important, right? Learning how things are placed on a face is something that takes a long time to learn. But if you take like little matters into your own hand, it doesn't matter like how other people have perceived what you got to draw. You can start trying to learn on your own. You can learn how to map the body out of yourself very easily, right? It's all about observation. It's all about going out there and observing what the world is around you, and then taking the time to analyze those things and make them make sense to you. Okay? So the actual act of drawing faces is not necessarily all that hard. You just have to split your face into 3 parts, regardless of how you're looking at it. If it's a profile, 3 parts. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then literally, honestly, all you got to do is divide that first third so you have access to your feature zone. The ear and stuff like that can be placed in different places in the back, but it just has to have a little bit of space. So this is meant for teaching purposes. It's meant to help you understand the placement of the positioning of your body, of your face, right? It's not meant to teach you a style. It's not meant to it's just giving you limits, right? Your eyes tend to be the limit of where your mouth goes, right? If this is the edge of your skull, this is your edge of your mouth, this is where your cheekbones and stuff like that go. So essentially, you're dividing all this into a skeletal system without even knowing it, right? Just by doing it in a 3x3 matter. So once we get to the 150 shares, we will start our lesson. You guys always crush the likes. You guys crush these amazingly. So let's get to 15,000, 15K. I'm sure you guys can do it before the shares happen. Share. Hi, Master Rod. Hi. How are you guys doing today? Are you guys having a good day? Are you guys out there ready to create and have fun and learn something new? Today we're going to be doing a little bit of character designing. We're going to be playing a little bit with posing, and we're going to be playing a lot with anatomy, because that was the concept behind what we did. So you just woke up. Well, good morning. Thank you for having our company and our sketch session be one of the first things you do. All right, let's do some other things while we get there. Let's see. Another thing that we learned during this whole entire time was how to draw hands a little bit easier. Right? We learned the power of learning where our knuckles are positioned on our body. And that alone gives us the power to draw hands in any direction we want. Right? Just knowing where that middle knuckle goes gives us the width of our hand, and then our fingers come from there. So it's another cool way to draw the hand. That gives you a lot of flexibility with this. Right? You can draw the hand from the top, you can draw the hand from the bottom, you can draw the hand from the sides, and it just becomes a lot easier once you have little reference points like your middle finger, because that gives you all the information you need. Wrist, middle finger, other fingers around. Right? It just helps map out your hands better. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. And today's is going to be our last page. Last page. Woohoo! So if you guys haven't gone to my page recently, right, we have a couple new videos out that talk about foreshortening, right? Little videos that talk about how to foreshorten, how to learn how to foreshorten your things. That one seems to have gone viral. Like, it got like 35,000 views in one night. So that one's awesome. Then there's a couple different ones that explain the whole process of drawing the face like this. So you guys can go see those if you guys are interested in that. I'll make a couple videos on how to draw the body as a beanbag to make that a little bit more, relevant for you guys, so you guys can do your cool poses and stuff like that. Wee little circulators. So that's gonna be it, and we need 17 more shares. You guys are almost there. I do that too. And take a look at your video a little later, but I'm sketching out bodies. Cool. Yeah, just feel free to sketch whatever you guys want. Like, when you guys are drawing with me, there's no like rules or bound sets, right? I'm just teaching you guys the foundational skills that you guys might need to be able to understand these things better, right? Like, there's nothing that bothers me more than seeing tutorials that tell you like, draw a circle, then draw little boxes, and then draw a box for the thumb, and then draw a box with an L for a thumb, and then connect it with a little line. This is not teaching you how to draw a hand. Right? This is teaching you how to draw a stylized hand. This is not teaching you a foundation skill. So don't do things like that. When I tell you, like, draw a trapezoid and then draw a half moon inside your eye and then fill it in. Don't do those tutorials. These don't teach you how to draw an eye. Drawing an eye is just a ball with hemispheres. That's an eye. This is bullshit. Anyways, we have met our requirement. Bum, bum, bum. So our last page of our sketchbook, this whole sketchbook started in May 20th. So we crushed this sketchbook. What day is it today? I totally forgot. But anyways, let's zoom out. Because this one's going to require a big space. This sketchbook was mostly anatomy, so we are going to have to make a pose with anatomy. So we are going to literally start by using the process that I'm teaching you guys how to do. I'm going to start with a beanbag. We're going to apply the concepts that we have learned throughout this sketchbook to this last pose. I'm going to give myself some hip bones. I'm going to give myself a rib cage. In this case, it's going to be a nice passive pose that's going to be all Zen-like. So it's going to be with my back arched a little bit and my hips back a little bit. So the basic beanbag shape is perfect for this. So the next thing that I got to figure out is my legs. I already drew my hip bones by drawing little underwear, so I know where my legs are supposed to come out from. So my legs can be in any direction that we want from there. But in this case, since we're going for a very specific look, I want both of my legs crossed. So I know that my thighs are going to be coming out at least. I don't know where the front of my legs are going to be yet, but my legs are going to be coming out from my thighs, coming out. Because I know I'm going to have like a little Zen pose. Right? So that's my first step. Figuring out the perspective of my thighs coming out. Right? Once I understand the perspective of my thighs coming out, then I can figure out where my front of my legs are going to be. The front of my leg is actually relatively easy to find out, like the calf. So let me show you guys how to find the calf in the lower part of the leg to any leg. So if you have your leg and it's connected to your hip bone, right? Let's say you have your legs and you're connected to your hip bones. To find the lower part of your leg, find your kneecap, right? And that's at the bottom of your thigh. You're going to draw a straight line wherever you want your leg to go, and you're going to draw your foot. Right? You're going to draw your foot at the end of that. And then you're going to wrap a muscle behind this that wraps around that, and it wraps around the other shape of your thigh. So it's going to be behind the thigh, and it's going to connect behind this bone. Right? It's going to go around the back of the bone. And then you just have your legs. Like when you have your thighs bent, draw your straight line into your foot, and then draw your calf behind it, and then the lifting part wherever like the muscles pushing up. That's literally how you draw those poses, right? So the leg itself is not necessarily all that hard of a concept. You just got to understand where your muscles connect. And then you can draw your legs all detailed like if you want, right? But that is essentially what's happening. You have this big shape, and then you have this shape that's behind it, underneath it, but it's very straight in the front. Like your muscle, you don't have muscle in the front of your leg, right? It's mostly your shin bone connected to your ankle, right? And that's where your foot comes from. And then this muscle wraps behind it, and it tucks in behind your thigh and your kneecap, right? That is essentially how you draw that part of the body. So it becomes a lot easier. Why do I feel like I can draw now after a minute of watching this? So because you're being explained how to do it. You're being explained in a proper, easy, like reasonable way how to actually draw what you're looking at. You're not just like giving it your all and not really getting anything back, right? Like I'm trying to explain to you guys how I see it so that you guys can see it too. So I have my kneecap. My muscle's going to wrap around my shin bone, and it's going to come on to my foot. Same thing here. There's a little foreshortening going on because it's going to be coming to the front. So that's essentially what's going on. This is what's going on. We have our thigh, we have our shin bone, we have the muscle around the shin bone, and it's coming into perspective, right? So it's overlapping a little bit. So that's what's going on here. My feet, I don't know if I want to get them tucked in, like in here, or do I just want to have them like planted like I'm putting my feet together, right? So I kind of like the idea of making my feet into a weird position. So now they're going to be planted together and they're going to be pressing against each other like a hand. Cool. Then we're going to go with my arms. My arms, finding the positioning for my arms is actually really, really easy too. Positioning for your arms is going to be on your collarbone. Right? Your collarbone is going to be the key to finding out how to move your arms properly. You find the collarbone by going in your rib cage, your initial rib cage, your little beanbag design, right? You have your rib cage, you have the middle of your rib cage, you're going to go up your rib cage, which curves, and you're going to put a dot. Bam. That dot is going to go to the sides of your arm or your rib cage. Once you have that, draw a circle underneath that pivot point. We're going to draw a circle underneath it. That circle is going to be the equivalent of your hip bone. This is where your leg comes from, so you can make your leg go in all sorts of directions because of that, right? Now we can move the leg because we know where the leg is supposed to come from. Whee! So now, since I know where my leg comes from, I can draw my leg doing all sorts of weird things. So this is the point where my arm comes from. So now, since I know where my arm comes from, I can start moving it in a bunch of different ways. Since I already know where it's supposed to come from, it doesn't matter if I draw noodles for arms. It's always going to look like it's connecting in the right place, right? It doesn't matter what you draw. You can draw lightning bolts for hands, for 5, 6. Right? It doesn't matter. Once you connect it to the right place, everything else becomes a lot easier, even for shortening things. Like if you wanted to bring something into perspective, like oh, the hand right here. Take that, connect it to that, and it's going to look right. So positioning is very important. And the collarbone, like I said, is literally just your rib cage from your beanbag, go up your middle, and create a little baseball diamond at the top. The 2 points are going to be your pivot points for your arm, regardless if it's going up, down, left, right, whatever. The only time that this gets any change is when there's a lot of musculature. When there's a lot of musculature, you just get a little bit of a bump, right? That's all you get. Whenever you need to draw something really buff, just make a little tiny extra bump for that part. And then you have a muscular guy. Okay. So that is essentially where we're going to place our arm. So our arm is going to go on our collarbone. We're going to draw through our shape to find our second one, right? Because it's in the back. It's not at the edge, it's behind. We're drawing a circular object. So we have our arm, we have our arm. Now, what do we want to do with these arms? I like to do it so I look like I am just super zen. My fingers being like that. So now I am doing a little cross-leggy thingy with my arms in the way that I want them. Haven't really added any style or anything to this yet, but it's already looking like I want it. So I'm going to give myself a ground by just adding a little bit of a shadow. Therefore, now I'm floating in the sky. Right? So now we are floating in the sky. Now I can start going into whatever face I want to make. I got to think about what type of like facial expression I want to do, but I also need to know how to connect my head to my body, right? That is something that's just going to be important. I'm going to need to be able to do that. So where does the neck connect to the body? I might need to make the legs a little bit bigger. Anyways, so where does the neck connect to the body? The head and the body have a very synergistic loophole. So we have, again, we found just the collarbone, right? We just found the collarbone. So understanding the collarbone is going to be the key to understanding how to connect our head. So our head is going to be a little bit above our rib cage. Okay. And what we need to do if we want to connect the neck to the head is to find where the connection points are. And that connection point is going to be right underneath the ear, right? Right underneath your ears. So you need to find both ears. So if you are drawing in 3/4, you need to draw so you can find both ears. Okay. If you're drawing in 3/4, you need to understand how to find the other ear. So you got to learn to draw through your shape. Once you do that, you're going to connect the bottom of the ear to the collarbone as your first muscle. Okay, that is the front of your neck, and it's the muscles that are going to connect it. They connect mostly like a little tube from your ear down to your collarbone, right? That is essentially what you're drawing in this part, right? That little point. So then that's the first part. And then the second part goes from the bottom of your ear to the side of your collarbone. And then whatever jaw you have is going to be there, covering part of the neck. And then you just close the loop here with the level of fitness that you want for your character. So if you want a character that's not very fit, but doesn't have like all those massive, you can still draw all those connection points. But then when you go to draw him, just don't draw a very defined neck, right? You don't have to draw all the definition if it's not there. You can add little shadows. You can do stuff like that to like compensate for that. But it doesn't always have to be a super jagged line, right? You don't have to have this connection point all the time. Most of the people don't have that being so like, sharp, unless you're a superhero or something. So your neck connects to your ears. Your ears connect to your neck. Neck, collarbone, right? The head is going to pivot also from the back point of your spine, right? Your spine is literally the pivot point for your skeleton. Like, it's kind of weird that I have to like explain that, but it's at the back of your head and it makes your head move back and forth, right? Your head rotates from that point. You pivot it back and forth from that point. It doesn't pivot from the middle. It pivots from the bone in the back. So you have your bone structure, your rib cage, and your head. Your neck moves from this point right here, not from the middle, from there. So whenever you're rotating your head, if you're rotating your head, you're going to rotate it from that point. Okay? So that is the movement of the neck. Your head tends to rotate around that pivot, not like a sphere, but around this pivot point. So whenever you rotate your head, you're going to see it move in those directions. So that is something that normally throws people off whenever they want to angle something, right? It just throws them off that they don't really understand how to move their head and how to connect their neck. So they just kind of like don't, and they try to stylize it again, and then that's what gets them in trouble. Let's draw a big head. I'm going to draw myself looking slightly up. So I'm going to draw my thirds or my mask looking slightly up. I'm going to draw my ear. And then my ear is going to connect to my collarbone. I'm going to find my other ear, connect that to my collarbone. And then I'm going to make my neck a little bit more slender to stylize it. A little bit more. But at least I know where it comes from now, so now I know where it's supposed to connect. So therefore, it's going to be easy for me to map it out. Essentially, that's what I look like. I look like Aang, but with more facial hair. My nose is going to be a diamond. My diamond is going to be seen a little bit from underneath, so I'm going to angle it up, giving myself a slightly downward angle. I have a mustache, so my mustache is going to be wrapping around my lip, and it curls, so I'm going to curl it. And give myself a little bit of contrast so those lines become a little bit more permanent. I'm going to give myself a bottom lip, and I'm going to give myself my chin with my facial hair. But I'm also looking a little bit up, so I need to make sure that that spacing is there so I can add my shadows so it looks like the cast shadow is casting onto my neck and not combining it with my facial hairs. My ear, the side of my head is very important because that's where my brain goes. Then we come on to my facial expression. I'm going to be satisfied, so I'm going to have my eyebrows up. Again, that upper line of the mask is going to give me my line for my eyebrows. I don't have to worry about where they're supposed to be. I already have the placement for them. This is my nose bridge. That's going to block a little bit of this eye. The forehead goes into my eye cavity, which turns up, but then it comes out again because of my cheekbone. So when you're looking at that area, what you're doing is this. Right? You have your skeletal system creating curvatures on both sides of your face. Right? So this part right here, whenever you see these bumps, it's your forehead or your brow muscle, and then it's your cheekbone right here. So it creates a little bit of a bump. You don't always have to draw this sticking out. You don't have to do that. Right? Doing that means that you have a gigantic cheekbone, which means you have to match it on this side if you want to actually make it look right. Don't do that. I'd rather you guys leave your characters flat, right, than adding bumps that don't exist. Because this is a style-based choice most of the time. Unless you're doing it on purpose, understanding where your cheekbones go, don't do that because you're going to essentially put yourself in a situation where you don't understand what you're drawing. Just know you're going to have to draw that because that's how you find it to be appealing. But understand that that's your cheekbone and your brow muscles when you're drawing that. So don't try to aim to draw through knowledge, not through style. Okay? So now we have that. We have my mustache. My mask is going to give me my glasses pretty much. So my mask is going to just follow the path where my glasses would be. So that's easy. Draw them coming off a little bit off the edge so that it looks like there's more depth. The connection point on the glasses is up on top, not in the middle, because it normally gives you enough space to clear your nose bridge. From here, the sides are going to give me depth by going back into my ear. And then I can draw my eyes. My eyes are going to be closed because I am in a Zen-like state, because I think that I leveled up. I honestly think that I leveled up completely during this sketchbook. So I'm going to have a nice and serene type of face. So now we're going to start moving down, and I'm going to give myself my clothing. I'm going to give myself my hands. I'm going to give myself all the styling that I want now that I have a solid foundation for my drawing, right? Now that I have a solid structure and I have started adding a little bit of detail, now I know that I want to continue the sketch the way that it is. So I'm going to go ahead and start going little by little and adding little details, changing lines wherever I see fit. And some of this needs to be changed just proportion-wise to make it fit more into my body type. But this is something that we're just going to learn how to do that on the fly. Even though we've already done it with pen, it's fine. You don't have to worry about that. You already have the structure, okay? So what do I want to wear? So I normally draw myself, since we're going to be drawing muscles, I'm going to draw myself shirtless, right? I work out a little bit, so I'm going to give myself a little bit of muscle. I feel like I have done a lot of work on myself these last couple months. So I'm going to reflect a little bit of that onto my drawing. So I'm going to draw the way that I know how to connect muscle structures, which is your shoulders wrap around your bicep. So if you have your bicep, your shoulder wraps around it, and then this goes inside to roughly where that debit goes. That connects your muscle tissue for your pectoral. But your pectoral is not just one single line from there. Your pectoral has two parts, an upper or a middle, upper, middle, and lower. So your lower pectoral is more round, giving you that boxy shape. Okay. So now we have my pecs. I'm going to make myself all ripped, even though I'm not. I'm going to dye myself my tattoos. I have one tattoo right here that is a spiral. Okay. Then I have arm tattoos. My arm tattoos will come in a second. Let me figure out where my arms are going to go. Okay. So if my bicep is there, my tricep is underneath. This is going to overlap. And then behind my tricep comes my back muscles. So I'm going to add myself a little bit of muscles back there because I do have muscles, right? This is my bone structure. My bone structure does not indicate my muscles. This is just my bone structure. So the beanbag that you draw is not the muscles that you're drawing, right? When you draw your beanbag, you're drawing just the bones. You're not drawing anything else. You're drawing your bones, right? If you're drawing your bones, doing all the little soft parts that are not your rib cage and your like your bones, like hard surfaces, right? Hard surface, hard surface. Anything outside of that can be molded to be anything you want. The person can be fat, the person can be really skinny with abs. If you want them to be, the person can have breasts, the person can have pectorals, you know, the person can be doing anything you want from that point on. So the structure, the actual skeletal system is not male or female. It's just a structure for your body. From here, if you want to make something with bigger hips, just make the hips bigger. And then you have a woman's shape, right? Make the things smaller and you have more of a straight character. make this wider, and you have a character that's going to be wider, right? That is essentially the concept behind these two surfaces. You can add your muscles on top of this and make it even more massive or less massive or more muscular or less muscular, whatever you feel like drawing at that point. Okay, so your base structure is not your body, it's just your bones. So you need to still learn how to draw musculature. So that is where the anatomy comes in, and that is the part that's hard sometimes, right? It's just not easy normally to draw like bodies and stuff like that. It takes a while to learn. So take the time to learn it, because it's going to be something that's going to help you through your career. All right, so now we have my muscles from this side, muscles from this side, and I don't really have a belly, so I'm going to cut that belly out, and I'm going to bring my legs up a little bit. That leg is going to be brought in a tiny bit because of my hip bones. And I'm going to give myself like yogi pants. I love yogi pants. I love pants like comfy, like super soft pants. I'm going to give myself some yogi pants. I'm going to give little tiny lines of overlap so it looks like they're baggy on me. And bring down the shape around, creating my little texture. Okay, I'm going to follow the midline of my stomach to create my little belly button and my rib cage. I don't really have much defined abs, but I do have a little bit of definition. So I'm going to draw myself a little bit of definition. And then from here, I'm noticing that the legs might be a little small for comparison of the size of the character. So I'm going to need to make these a tiny bit bigger, which is not a problem because they're being foreshortened. So I just got to make these a little bit longer. Right? And they're going to be in pants anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm just finding out my bones. Then the next step is to find how my clothing is going to fit on this. So if I'm going to have big, loose pants, I'm got to find the perspective in which they're going to be. And that's going to be the same perspective as my leg is. Right? So if my leg is pointing in that direction, my pants are going to be sagging in that direction. And they will be connected to the draping points, which in this case would be the knee. There would be a lot of wrinkles because it's soft material, so the wrinkles would happen at the points of contact with my skin, with my body. So you'd see a little definition here, but then you see wrinkles. You would see wrinkles, and then you see it hugging the body from the top. Same thing here. You'd have a little bit of wrinkles because of the crease, wrinkles, crease, but then it would hug the top because it's gravity. And then here, you would have a couple little folds just because it's not necessarily like the most like stiff material. So you'd still see a little bit of creases here and there. So just like that, we have our yogi pants. We have our hip bones because of our underwear line. And now we can go into the tougher details. In this case are going to be the hands. So we got to figure out what we want to do with the hands. What pen am I using? I'm just using a normal Bic pen. It's not anything special. It's not anything expensive. It's not anything. I don't use expensive materials. So if you guys want to pick up a pen and steal it from the bank, go for it. That's going to be the same thing. Okay. Like, there's nothing special about my materials that is making me draw better than you guys. This is not about like how cool my expensive materials are. This is just how cool my brain is because I can do this. How do you draw open eyes? Well, so your eye is an eyeball, right? Your eye is an eyeball. Your eyeball is round. Your eyeball is a sphere, right? Your eyeball has a bunch of lines and stuff like that going around it because it's a sphere. So the more you close your eye, the more you just close those hemispheres, overlapping the top line, right? And as you get closer to having your eyes closed, you'll realize that your eyelid tends to close about 80% from the top lid, 20% from the bottom lid. So you eventually, your grids, your little like indication marks, give you everything you need for a person that's sleeping. Right? So an open eye, a completely open eye would have its like eyelid up here. A closed eye would have their eyelid closed because you would just close your eye. Your eyelid would travel down the perspective lines until you get to the point where it's closed. So that is how you draw closed eyes. All right, we have gotten to 38,000 likes so far. Great. And oh my God, you guys have gotten to 222 shares just on your own. Keep on hitting that share button if you guys want to get me more followers, right? Like this is the heart and the shares are essentially what you guys should be hitting constantly if you guys really, really, really like what I do. And if you guys are learning, even more so, hit that times 10. If you guys learn anything, just like show me. Like this machine right here, this rod gun machine works off ego and pride. So if you guys want me to be like super happy and like ecstatic about teaching, oh yeah, give me those props, guys. Give me those props because I feed off those props. Yeah. So in this case, I'm going to be drawing the foot, right? The way that I like to draw my feet is to find the bottom of my feet first. In this case, it's going to be something like that, going into my ankle, right? I'm going to find the bottom of my feet, and then I like to draw my toes on top of that. Okay. In this case, they're going to be interacting with another toe. So they're going to be interlacing, kind of like they're grabbing hands. So that's something that I'm going to try to do with the anatomy. I'm going to try to do like if this toe was coming up here, then we would have like one toe crossing over. So it would be kind of like this system. 1, 2, there you go. So now I'm grabbing onto my own toes because that's what yoga people do apparently. All right. So we have that. Now we can go in and add a little bit of color to add a little bit of enhanced contrast for that part of the body. So let's give it some quick color with a highlighter. The highlighter is nothing special as well. It's just a Stabilo Boss pink highlighter. And you can use any highlighter you want. I like pink and blue the most. I don't like the green ones. I've never had a good relationship with the color green, and because I'm colorblind slightly. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of my OG highlighter backgrounds. Like I used to just do highlighter as a background with all my sketches, and it was awesome. Right, no, let's add a little bit of lines, not necessarily following this, and I'm going to make it shorter on this side, like so it frames my character a little bit better, right? So I'm not just adding lines, I'm making sure that the lines highlight the composition that I'm trying to do. So all these little tiny squiggles that you see, they're not random. They're not like just magically just like, I'm just gonna draw lines. No. Even the dots can be like very, very determined. I'm gonna give myself a little bit of color in my nose, a little bit on my ears, and a little bit on my eyes. Maybe a little bit on my lip. So just by doing that, now I have my character floating in space in the middle of a field, and it's awesome. So now I gotta see what I've gotta do with my hands. I wanna kind of do the whole yoga pose, but I'm looking and that is not the angle. The angle is straight up down, and then you have like your hands in like, so my arm is gonna be coming out. My arm is gonna be coming out this way. And then I want it to be like a yoga pose, so my hand is gonna be with my thumb inside or outside. I think it's inside. So this becomes a circle. Let's try it again. So my fingers have to go around that, right? My thumb has to be like this, but from the back, so like that. So one of them, the pinky, is gonna be the main culprit, but the other fingers are sticking out. Okay, so let's see. So if this one's gonna be the pinky, we're gonna use my middle finger concept. So my middle finger is gonna be the one that's grabbing on. So I'm gonna take the middle of my wrist, right? That's gonna be the key point to finding out this point. My middle of my wrist to my middle finger, which will be right there at this angle. So if my thumb is gonna be on the other side, I know that my pinky and my ring finger have to be on this side. So that's gonna help me figure that out, because I know that my pinky is supposed to be straight. My index finger is supposed to be bent into my thumb, and that one as well. So that goes there. Then my index finger is coming out, and that's going to give me the top of my hand. Then this one's going there, and my thumb is not going to be much seen, but I still want to make it visible. There you go, something like that. Let's see if that looks right. We have our hand, we have our knuckle, top of the hand. Right? We have this finger sticking out, this one bending this way, and then connecting to my thumb over there. Yeah, that's fine. That works. So in this one, I'm going to find the middle of my wrist on the other side of my hand. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drag this one into perspective. One finger towards my thumb side, two fingers towards this side. That gives me the thickness of my palm. Into my pinky, that's going to be sticking out. But this time you're not going to see much of the fingers. Yeah, there you go. And that looks good, I think. Yeah, that's fine. It looks really bendy, but it looks okay. This one might be a little too broken, but whatever. So we have our biceps, we have this. Now we got to draw all our art materials. So we have my sketchbook, loading in space. Right. We have our sketchbook, we have our pen with our little grippy part. We're going to draw some Post-its. And these are ILO sketchbooks with stickers, so ILO. And then, let's see, what else could we draw to make this look better? So if I wanted to make this into a more like Zen-like thing, I can just give myself things coming out of my head, kind of like lines and stuff. And I'm going to give these guys a little bit of contrast so they stick out against the white background. Ta-da! I'm going to give myself a little bit of color around my body so that it looks like I have a little bit more depth. Even highlighter can be used to gradient if you know how to use it properly. Cool. How do you draw hair? I'm bald. I don't need to draw hair. But if you wanted to draw hair, it's very easy. Your heads are three-dimensional shapes. So they're going to have a circumference to your shape, right? Find the top circumference of the top of your head. And then you have your hairline at like sideburn to your ear. And you have your hairline. Draw your shape. Draw your circumference for the top of your head. That's your hairline. And again, give it a style. Regardless of what you want it to be. You want it to be a mohawk? Cool. Give it a mohawk. Right? So it's just a circumference over the top of your head and then add style to it. So that is actually like one of the easiest things to learn. Like how to draw hair on top of a head is very easy. And then I have new tattoos. Oh my God, I have new tattoos. I have a tattoo on my left hand. This is from the beautiful people over at Colorful Pricks in Scotland. They're opening up their own tattoo shop, and I got to be part of their coven for about 3 weeks. So that was awesome, and I got to like experience some beautiful, beautiful times over there, honestly. It was wonderful. Then I have arm tattoos. So I'm going to draw my arm tattoos, which are arrows going into a cityscape on the top. And then my forearm has a couple. I have a tattoo of a tiki right here on my wrist that was gifted to me by the wonderful ex-girlfriend. Then we have another tattoo on my forearm, and I have other tattoos like a little hunter on my thing, but you can't really see it. I always carry my necklace with a ring and a little charm from Vicky because she gave me a charm. And even though I don't really know where we stand in our relationship, I like having a little bit of her with me. So there you go. It's to help with grip. Yeah, this is just to help with pressure on my arms. Right? Like this is going to help me not be all cramped up by the end of our drawing session. So this is just something that I like to keep. And then since this is going to be a completed sketchbook, what day is today? So completed June 15th, 2023. And what we're going to do, we got to make this like super cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain how to draw different body parts and fill this up with anatomy like lesson things all the way through to the end. So we're going to do an entire page and a half of these like just concepts. So I'm going to talk about arms. Essentially, I'll go down the whole body and end up with feet and start with heads. So let's start. This is just going to be filler, so it's a pattern texture for our background. It's going to be super cool. Question, how many years have you been able to pull drawing? Well, I've been drawing for about 20 years. 20? Arm, leg, and head. What? Arm, leg, arm, head. What? Art block help. Well, it's funny you should mention that. Because I have entire books. I have books meant for that. I have books meant to beat your art block. Art block volumes 1 and 2 are out for sale if you guys feel like going and buying something cool. Yay! This is the best way to support me, so you guys can go buy my books at my store in my links in my bio. Woohoo! So, all right, let's start with the head. So the head is a bone, right? Your skull in itself is a bone that has very little mobility except for your jaw and your neck, right? Your jaw is the only part that moves out of your head, really. So learning how to master that is going to be very important. I like to draw my heads literally just from this part of the face. I don't like to draw my heads into the jaw because the jaw does not really, it's not a very clear indicative of a positioning thing because it moves a lot, right? So I just draw my characters up until this stage, which is just your eyebrows and your nose. I like to draw up to here. That makes it easy for me to keep it nice and simple. I can have all the things that I want, and then I draw my jaw after because my jaw can be doing anything I want. It can be moving, it could be giving me different facial expressions, it could be doing anything I want. So that comes after. This whole gets represented as a couple different ways. You guys can do the whole Loomis method that splits the object in half, and you guys can find like your features from there. Right? You guys can do it like that. You guys can do it in the other ways that I've been teaching, which is kind of like you can do the mask. The mask is a very convenient way to learn. The other way to do it is the butterfly effect. The butterfly gives you all the features that you want as well. That one's really, really good. Right? You can do the rule of thirds by just splitting things in 3 and then drawing your features in there. And you can draw your faces like that. You can do a bunch of different things to make your faces more appealing and to find these measures and measurements that you need to be able to figure out how to draw your characters. So there's a bunch of different ways that you guys can approach this. There's no given way that's going to be the best. There's going to be all sorts of methods that you guys have probably never really seen or really heard from or really like try to do yourself. But there's a lot of different methods out there that help you be able to come up with all this stuff. Right? From anatomy to the nose, anatomy to the mouth, anatomy to even to the teeth, right? There's going to be a bunch of different things that you guys learn over time. And that's going to involve you actually being able to see basic shapes. So if you guys are having issues with figuring out things like this, what you need to figure out is how to draw in perspective a little bit better. And I don't mean drawing like visual, like, you know, like things like, oh, like vanishing guides and stuff like that. No, just learn how to like divide your spheres, right? Learn to divide your spheres in different sections by slicing them up in different sections. Eventually, you'll be able to slice them in 3, right? Once you get to slice something in 3, now you can draw faces. Because now you know the placement for all your things. The second one is going to be your features, and this one's going to be your forehead and hair, and this one's going to be your chin and your mouth. If you can divide that into 3, any shape can be divided into 3, and if you take your mouth, your forehead and your hair, and then you just play around with those different elements, you can have a lot of fun coming up with characters because now you're not going to be worried about, oh, is it supposed to go there? No, now you know it goes there. Now you get to decide how it goes there. When you have a minute, can you just flow through the sketchbook? Yeah, I guess so. So it's not a pen, it's an old man. What? Anyways, as you guys learn more about anatomy, you guys will be able to add more things to these lines, right? Maybe at first, all you can do is do that. Maybe that's all you can do at first, right? If all you can do is do a happy face on your shapes, but you're placing them in the right place, you're already like 10 steps ahead of any others. Because this, once you learn anatomy, is going to really like translate to just drawing things in the proper place, but now you're going to be doing it with proper anatomy, right? So understand where placement goes so that you can actually draw your things in the level of detail that you want once you learn how to draw them like that, right? Once you understand how to draw something in the right place, it's going to be really hard for you to not do that. Can you show us the whole book? Yeah, we can do a little quick tour of the book if you guys want. So the book starts with a lot of doodles, and then it goes into a lot of my faces because I get bored and I use the front pages to be able to draw like things for myself. So we start with that. Then I haven't finished these, which are going to be like random thought patterns. Like I got to make something out of these little blobs. And then we go into our actual sketchbook. So our sketchbook began in May 2023, and it was meant more towards learning and teaching and showing you guys how to draw. So teaching you guys how and why the foundations were so important. From there, we started going into a lot of questions that you guys asked about, placement of features, how to draw the body, how to move it, how to move everything. And then just like that, we started going into hands, we started going into heads, eyes, everything like that, right? When I started pushing the boundaries of posing and I started actually learning myself, like taking the time to study a little bit more, I started leveling up incredibly quickly and being able to see things in a detailed manner or a simplified manner. And that was what led to being able to see things like this, like the mask, seeing like the separation of elements and moving things around. And then it led to more understanding of how things connect and just overall practicing and seeing if I could connect them in different angles, different points of view, different positions. And eventually it led to me understanding where the arm pivots from. And when I learned where the arm pivots from, that was it for that. And then I started drawing the face in a bunch of different ways, trying to come up with different matters and different positions and different ways to break it down so that I could explain it to you guys, right? In this case, it was going to be more of like the rib cage version of the head and seeing how the bottom of the head is normally molded around like a mask, like the ones that we've been wearing for the last couple of years. So once I started applying that concept, my faces started becoming a little bit more round, a little bit more defined. And then that went on to more posing and explaining to you guys how the rib cage and the beanbag works. And then, just continuously pressing the concept of perspective and anatomy in every single thing we do so that you guys can get excited about it, right? This is normally a topic that's super boring for people. This is something that most people just don't like to do. So the real trick as a teacher is to be able to go and make these things really, really cool and really, really fun for you guys so that you guys can make it interesting and actually want to do it. Right? If I don't do that, then you guys just don't do it and you guys just stay in the same position and you guys don't improve. So me being a teacher, I have to teach you guys how to do these things in the proper way, not the way that is just being regurgitated from a bunch of books that we have not really updated in like 50 years. Right? Like a lot of the people that release how to draw books are normally people that just put the same information just with a little bit more flair. And then they expect that information to read any differently. And our generations of artists just end up in the same shitter because they end up not learning the way that they're supposed to. They end up learning through style. And when they try to go into their foundations, they get frustrated. They don't do the things that they're supposed to. And then they just give up. Right? As opposed to giving somebody the drive to be able to do it so that they understand the concepts that they do of what they're drawing, and then, use that knowledge to be able to improve yourself in your style, not necessarily the other way around. Your style is never going to help your foundations. Your style is not going to help your foundations. I'm going to repeat that a couple times. Your style is not going to help your foundations. Your foundations are what help your style. So you got to start from your foundations and then move your way up. Right? And I explained how to do that in a couple videos. So if you guys go to my YouTube, like I have videos that explain every single process of how to draw from scratch down to how I draw like this, right? So if you guys feel like doing that, then great. Oh, and this time we went and drew people from TikTok Live. So, kid. All right, let's see. We talked a little bit about the 3H system, the 3 heart surface system that we can use to learn how to draw the bodies a little bit better. We talked a little bit about the arm construction and how to connect the arms and the legs and the thighs and how they work very similar to each other. And then I decided to draw some comic book covers. So I just wanted to draw some comic book covers for myself to see if I could actually do something and come up with my own little Spider-Man. Because I went to see the Spider-Verse. And then from there, I taught you guys posing and taught you guys how to see things like that a little bit better. We taught about eyes, legs, hands again. I watched Predator and I drew some things from the movie. Then I watched The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. And I decided to draw some stuff from that movie too. Then I watched Aladdin. So I watched Aladdin and I wanted to come up with my own Aladdin. So I came up with my own Jafar, my own Aladdin, my own Steve of the Wonders. And then I was looking to see how I could redesign Astro Boy. And somebody asked for oiled up Batman. So I drew an oiled up Batman. Just because that sounded hilarious. Right? So that was really, really cute and funny. Trying to play around with arm placement and see if I could actually add anatomy and musculature to my things. Playing with foreshortening with my hands. Shoulder placement. We talked about the neck and how that connects to the body. We talked about the pressure and how to actually manipulate shapes and proportions. We've talked about a lot of things during this book. So arms, legs, positioning again, hair. We talked about hair a couple times, glasses, the facial structure of the head. The live is kind of messed up. No image. What? Like, fixes it. Let me know if that fixed it. What is this type of drawing called? Well, this is learning. That's what it's called. It's just called learning. Right? This is just understanding where your things go. This is not like a certain style of, like, this is how your sketchbook should be filled. Like, your sketchbook should be your teaching tool. So I don't know if there's a style for this or if there's a way that you guys can, like, call it. But in all reality, it's just teaching tools. Like, this is just what I consider to be a great, like, teaching tool. Your sketchbook is your best teaching tool because it's going to be the one thing that you can mess up in, and you don't have to explain yourself to anybody, right? This is just you. How to tell the difference between stylization and foundation. Okay, so the difference between stylization and foundational work is very simple and very, very, very stupidly simple to distinguish. And one line, you have style. Let's do a pen. Style, knowledge. That's literally how you're going to define it, right? Style makes things look pretty. Whatever you do to make things look pretty, okay? Knowledge makes it look right. That's it. That's the difference between style and knowledge. If you know through style, you might make things look really pretty, but you might not know the placement. Placement sucks. But if you know knowledge, maybe your things don't look as pretty, but they'll be in the right place. So this is the difference between style and knowledge. If you're trying to distinguish, if you're drawing like a foot, right? And you don't know how to draw a foot, so you add like, I don't know, like shoes or you give them like super big toes because you don't know how to draw the toes. That's style. When you know how the foot connects, even if you don't draw it perfectly, but you can move it around because you know how that moves, but you just don't know how to draw it, that's knowledge. So don't draw through style until you understand your knowledge. When you know knowledge, when you understand it, then you can stylize it. So that is the difference between knowledge and style. Then as we continue in our sketchbook, then we went in and we talked a little bit more about the actual how to visualize things in 3D. We talked you guys through all this concept work and seeing what you can do with each step as you learn. And then when it comes down to the implementation of style, that's not till step 5, right? There's so many different steps before you can even get to a stylization. So yeah, style comes way later. Like way later. It's like down here, way later in life. Then we talked about character design a little bit and how you guys can start seeing things a little bit easier, how to stop being so rigid with your art, and how to actually move a character around and learn how to do this from stages. How the difference between realism and normal like drawing is because you don't draw lines. And then we watched How to Train a Dragon. And then I drew myself as a post-apocalyptic dragon rider. And I give myself a dragon. I like my dragon. Now, then we went into hair. We talked a little bit about hair and how to like braid it, touch it, see it, design it, and not get confused by it. And then we went again into the difficulty parts of the body, right? How to explain how to draw different aspects and how understanding, knowing where something goes is infinitely more important than knowing how to draw it properly. And that goes back to this, right? Our knowledge and our foundations are more important because you need to make sure that you know where things go before you know how to make them look pretty. So that is a very, 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 very strong belief in mine. So that is the book. So if you guys enjoyed it, hit that little heart button. This one is going to be complemented with the other one because this one's a really thick pages, right? And this one is going to be about, I think it's like 50 pages, but normally my art blocks are 100 pages. So I'm going to have to use pages from other sketchbooks to complete it, to make sure that it has the 100-page mark. Because I might make sure that you guys get value from this too. Could you do a form of a Spider-Man positions? Yeah, I guess we can. We talked about posing, so let's draw some Spider-Man poses. So if you understand your rib cage and your hip bones, positioning becomes a lot easier for most things. I know that my arm connects there, so I know that the foreshortening has to be within that space. I know my neck comes from here, and my head is going to be right here, so I can draw my little Spider-Man guy. My shoulders are going to be at the base of my collarbone, and my foreshortening can bring my arm back. Let's do some more extreme ones. Let's draw the face first in this one. And then we will draw like a super foreshortened body going down. How about that? He's going to be looking at a picture. Taking a selfie. I know that my arm is going to have to connect right there. And my wrist is up here, so as long as those 2 points connect, I can start adding my foreshortened anatomy, and it'll look great. Right, so it's just a matter of understanding your posing through your rib cage and your hip bones, and then positioning that and then changing the pose to match whatever you need. So at this point, he's going to be on a pole. He's going to be eating a sandwich. With a drink. Right? So once you know this, I can go back in here and add all the musculature that I want, and it'll look a lot more accurate than I did if I started drawing all my shapes without actually knowing what I wanted. Spider cat. Spider cat, spider cat, does whatever a spider cat does. It's a spider cat. Let's see, how would a spider cat be like mounted on things? So he'd probably be mounted on a wall. Let's see. Can you draw a monkey? No, I'm not gonna draw like random stuff. Like I'm not gonna draw random animals. I just indulged this because it was cute. If you want to buy this little grip, you can just go to any art store and they have them. Like they sell them in different shapes and stuff, but for the most part, you can buy them at any art store. Foreshortening is just basic shapes overlapping, right? Foreshortening, and I do explain this a little bit easier, it's just two basic shapes. In this case, three basic shapes, right, that are just overlapping each other. The trick is to just draw these conjunctures with enough overlap so it looks like they're going over each other. Right? So that's essentially what foreshortening is. And just take a big element, a little element, and blend them together. And you get foreshortening. Yeah, this is just a basic ballpoint pen. The rib cage, we've talked about this a quadrillion times, but a rib cage is just a sphere with a little divot in the middle. Follow it up, collarbone. That is your rib cage. That is the basic shape of your rib cage, and you should probably think about it like that because it's super easy to draw like that. Can you do something with forearms? Yeah. So something with forearms would be like this. Essentially, you're going to take the concept of your collarbone, right? The collarbone tells you where your arms go. So if your arm is supposed to come out of your collarbone, if you want to create a different set of arms, just make another collarbone. You don't have to like draw it into your body, right? This could still be just like your rib cage, but draw the collarbone so you know where it goes. If you know where the collarbone goes, now you know where your arms are supposed to go regardless of where you position them, right? So if you want a second set of arms, just have it coming out of your pectorals, underneath, like out of your armpits. Are there benefits to using ballpoint pen for sketching, or is there just a preference? I like my pens over a pencil because I can't erase, right? I can't erase, so it makes me more creative. I have to be more, it's going to sound weird, but more better with my penmanship if I want to actually achieve the same level of detail that a person with a pencil would. So even though it is like a personal preference, it does have with it a lot of benefits innate to just doing it with a pen. Like being able to sketch with a pen makes you a lot more proactive about your line work, and it makes you be more decisive than a person that does not necessarily like to draw with pen. Because a person might think that it's too messy, a person might think that it's too unruly, like, I don't know, they get blobbies all over the place or whatever. But that's mostly just like not having the mastery of the tool. And it's like somebody complaining that their hand gets smudged when they draw with pencil. Right? They just don't know how to draw with it yet, so they complain about it. If you don't know how to use the tool, then obviously when you try to use the tool and you don't know how to use it, you're going to suck at it. So you're going to be like, oh, it just sucks. It's horrible. But it's not. It's just a different tool. And you need to learn how to use it if you want to use it. If you don't want to use it, then don't. Like, it's a complete, it is a preference. You don't need to draw with anything. Like, there's no like straight up like right tool that you can use. It's all just preference as to what you want to create your artwork with. Where do you buy your grip? Amazon, could be your art supply store, could be anything. Like, it's just a little pencil grip. It's not anything special. Like, this is not making me draw better. It's just making me able to draw for longer periods because I do it live and I do it in front of you guys for hours at a time. Right? So I need to protect my hand as much as I can. And even though my hand still hurts at the end of the day, it hurts a little bit less whenever I use my grips. Just because I'm not putting that much insanely pressure on my hand. You're welcome. All right, so let's see. We have to like fill this whole thing up with like a bunch of anatomy things. So let's keep filling it up. Ta-da. Yeah, this book has been really, really good for me. Like, I have learned a lot over the time of me, like, just actively trying to learn has taught me a lot, right? Actively trying to learn has, like, I don't know, it feels to me, like, I know it sounds weird, but it feels to me that I am learning infinitely more by teaching you guys than it is by trying to learn on my own. When I try to explain things to you, I find myself really, really seeing if I know the topic. Right? If I don't know the topic, it's hard to explain it, and then I stumble and I'm like, ooh, I don't know that. And if I don't know that, then I go ahead and I study that over and over until I get it. Right? I get excited whenever I draw something that I don't know, because at this stage in my career, it's very hard. And this is not sounding cocky or anything, please. Like, don't think that I'm like being arrogant. But it's just finding hard lessons that teach me something new when it comes down to drawing, right? I am actively looking. This is something that I do for a passion, right? So I'm just running out of things to learn from, the other people that I am like referencing and looking at, and like other teachers and stuff like that. So I'm just keeping on seeing the same, repetition of a lot of the same lessons. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I don't do that, right? I want to make sure that I constantly keep growing. And in order to do that, I need to learn myself. So I have to actively be doing these sorts of drawings and explorations and sketches and like talking to people and figuring out what they need and what they do and what they want and their struggles and how to overcome those struggles in the best way possible so that you guys can actually go out and have fun creating instead of being stressed out and always being on that like, oh my God, I need to learn more before I start doing my things. Oh, I need to do this before I'm ready to do this. No. No. We learn by doing. We learn by doing, and that is how we learn, right? That is essentially the concept that you got to adopt. Like, if you learn how to draw a circle or an oval, then use that skill to do something cool for yourself. Like, if you learn how to draw in 3D, draw something cool for yourself with that. If you don't know anything about anatomy, but all of a sudden you just discovered that making like a little beanbag can help you with your arms and stuff like that, right? Then use that over and over until that becomes part of your core self. If you like the concept of the rib cage and the hip bones being this simple, then practice this concept over and over until you can move that body in any direction you want with these simple shapes, right? Rotate it around, see what you can do, see what comes up from different positionings. Don't be afraid to explore, because exploration is how you discover things, right? So take the time to practice your 3D shapes. Take the time to practice your contrasting shapes, right? Take the time to practice, not your shadows. You don't need shadows at this point. Like if you're following your path and you want to continue the path that I'm teaching, you don't need shadows yet. Shadows are irrelevant. So don't worry about like, am I getting my shadows right? Am I getting my highlights right? Like you need to understand what lights and shadows are in order to be able to get to that, right? You can't just go in and add shadows without knowing what a shadow is. A shadow is the absence of light, right? Or the obstruction of light. So you need to have a light source and know what a light source is before lighting can even be considered a part of your repertoire. You need to understand how this works in order for this to work. If you don't understand how lighting works, don't add highlights to things. Don't add shadows to things. Learn to add your depth through your drawing, through your lines, through your overlapping shapes. This is how you should be creating depth. It should not be with shadows because you don't understand shadows yet sometimes, right? And if you do, adding your anatomy and your perspective to your things is going to just simplify the concept of lighting because now you're going to have a grid mark that you can just fill in, right? And then you can just use that for your reference, for your lighting, to give your like core shadows and your reflective shadows and all that stuff space. You need to be able to grid your things so that you guys can do it properly. Okay, it's just a matter of understanding and seeing how all the things connect with each other. Really how the last page is going to be, all the extra little lessons that we have learned throughout our time here. There's a bunch of them. Bam. Right? We have so many lessons that we normally teach outside of our sketchbook that I have so much stuff to just put in here. All right, let's go. All right, let's make this all fit. We'll cover this, and this one will be in the back because that could be like background, and bam. There you go. Cool. There you go. Bam! And that's how you finish a sketchbook, people. Thank you so much for always being my drawing buddies. You guys are the best. You guys are the reason that I keep on doing this and the reason that I am able to keep on doing this. So if you guys do feel like you guys are getting a lot of benefit from what I do, please go subscribe to my other YouTube channel, my TikTok channel, to my Instagram, to my Twitch. I'm going to be doing how to freelance lessons on Twitch starting on Monday. So I'm going to be doing all my freelance work through Twitch, freelancing while I stream so that I can teach you guys how to do all those things as well. So that is just going to be something that I've been thinking about doing for a very long time. So if you guys want to come join us for that, please come join us on Twitch. My name is the same on all my platforms. It's very easy to find me. You guys can just go search for me, and you guys can join me if you guys want. So until then, tape. Bam. You guys are wonderful. You guys are lovely. We are on the road to 150,000 people on TikTok. So we will be there hopefully by the end of the week. It's been really, really cool being able to grow again. It's getting me excited about actually like doing things with my career again. So seeing myself grow in these like avenues, apparently my Instagram is growing as well now again. Like after years of not growing, for some reason now it's just like taking off again. So I have a feeling that this is going to be a really good time for me. So I appreciate all your guys' support through this transition into this being more of like a full-time job. And I do appreciate every single one of you guys because you guys are rock stars. And the people that stayed here throughout the whole lesson, man, you guys are great. Okay, thank you so much for all the 300 people that shared my stream. To the 125,000 people that liked my stuff. 125,000 people. Holy shit, that's more than a stadium, guys. Like, I could fill the stadium. Holy shit. Now, that is fascinating to me. Yeah, thank you, Sketchbook. You were really, really nice to me. Illo sketchbooks are absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend them. I just asked them for some more so I can have some more to draw on. Until then, I will be drawing on different things like my Danique sketchbooks and Post-its. So I'm going to wait until my new sketchbook comes in so I can finally finalize it. But this one is done. So May 20th to June 15th. So we filled that up really quickly, guys. To June 15th. That. And that completes our sketchbook. Thank you guys so much for being my drawing partners throughout this whole time. You guys keep me company for months at a time, and you guys are amazing. I am drawing on my bed. So I'm just drawing on my bed. I have this little swing arm thing. That's literally me. Thank you guys so much for being my drawing buddies. You guys draw with me every single day. I don't have my mustache curled, so it's probably like a little bit messy. But I appreciate every single one of you guys. Thank you for being my supportive blanket. You know, you guys are awesome. And thank you for everything. Let's continue on to our next sketchbook, and I'll see you guys probably later tonight to stream because I have no self-control and I love drawing. So see you guys soon. Take care.